Good morning. Welcome, everybody, to the first Friday book club at the Addison Township Public Library. Today, this is our first Friday book club of August, and we are excited and happy to be here to discuss The Accident by Chris Pavoni. I just wanted to make a couple of announcements before we get started. Coming up in September, we have a couple of big events at the Addison Township Public Library. The first one is September 16th. It is the Classic Car and Cupcake Challenge. It's going to be a really great event, and it will be held in our parking lot. It's a combination classic car show and cupcake competition. So you're invited to bring your classic cars and bake your very best cupcakes and compete for awesome prizes here at the library. Also this month, on the 28th of September, next month, excuse me, we will be having the genealogy of a house. And the Michigan History Center will be sending a representative to discuss house genealogy and how to research your house, its provenance, and the history of your community. So we're all excited about local history here at the library, so I hope you will save the date for that really exciting event. But getting back to our book discussion, this novel, Chris Pavoni's The Accident, was his second novel. His first bestseller was The Expats, and it was a highly successful novel. You may ask why we didn't read that novel. Well, this particular novel was about the publishing company and how cutthroat it seems to this particular author. This author spent 20 years in the publishing industry, and he was very well equipped to write an exciting novel about espionage. I listened to a couple of interviews. He said this isn't the kind of book that he normally reads. This is not the kind of book I normally read either. But I thought, being that it's summer, we needed something kind of light and easy. Well, this didn't turn out to be exactly light or easy, but it was fast and exciting. So I thought we could go around the room and just give your general impressions about it. And Denise, would you like to give us your opinion on what you thought about this novel, whether you liked it or did not like it?
I did not like it.
Okay.
There was just, I don't really know. I mean, when the other book club, last one, I got into it right away, and then I stopped reading it for a couple weeks. And then I picked it back up again and started reading again, and it was like, I will read the book, but it's like I didn't care for this whole complete story, publishing company and all that. Mm-hmm. Not my kind of reading.
Okay, all right. Well, that's a very valid opinion, and no, I appreciate that.
Okay.
Yes, Mary Ellen, would you like to tell us what you think?
I also did not like the book. There was way too much killing.
Yes, there was a lot of killing.
There was a lot of murder, and I tend to then read past those parts quickly. It's like, no, I don't want description. And then the other things, he just over-described everything. Mm-hmm. It's like, wait, I don't need to quite know that much information. And the other thing is that everybody was evil.
Yes, that's
everybody
true.
was evil.
Yes.
It was like, was there any character that was not bad?
Mm-hmm. You have a very good point.
Even the people you thought were okay, there was some good twist. It was like, oh, no, she's bad too.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
But I did finish. But it doesn't make me want to read something else it's like, no, it's because sometimes some of the books we read, I think, oh, I need to get other works that author read because they're real good. The first novel, like, no, that's okay. I don't need to. He'll over-describe and kill everybody, so I don't need to.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Dorothy, what do you think?
Well, I love a good mystery.
Yes.
That's the majority of the books I read are mysteries. I didn't expect the things that happened. I just wasn't expecting a mystery in the book club.
Right. That was the first one I think we've read.
But as Jema said, it was about the publishing world, and very informative. I liked it.
Well, good. I'm glad we have one person at least.
It was a little difficult to follow, sometimes with all the characters, but the funny part of it was, I thought, was everybody made a copy of that book.
Yes, yes, that's true. Yes, that's an interesting point.
Yeah.
They did.
That's the first thing I realized, that these copies were being made all over. They traveled.
That's exactly right. And they traveled in the physical form of
Yeah,
paper,
yeah.
which I thought was an interesting aspect of this
Exactly.
novel, rather than electronic. So
Right.
the author was using an interesting twist in this day of high tech.
There was a lot of paper involved.
There was a lot of trees killed in this novel.
A lot of trees.
You can't get away from paper in the publishing world, apparently. So
No, we all thought that would all disappear. Papers would become a paperless society 20 years ago,
yeah.
you know?
No,
and it hasn't happened.
I think if anything, maybe there's more paper.
I think you're probably right.
Yeah.
That's right. And this is a testament to that very thing. Yes. Yes. Rita, what do you think?
No, I enjoyed it in the sense that it was educational about the publishing world, you know, and you know, and the whole aspect of every secretary. It seemed like every delivery person had a copy, and not knowing what this book was about or how important it was, and the danger of it, you know, to have a copy, and how they found out how people had a copy. So, I mean, it was in a very short span of time that the whole novel occurred, now that I remember it. And so there was a lot of, like you said, a lot of descriptive language in it that got a little annoying.
I do agree with you there. I felt that there was sometimes way too much description, especially when you got toward the end, when you wanted it to come to a conclusion. You didn't want him to yet describe another mountaintop or yet another ravine or another beautiful view from the ocean. You just wanted it, you know,
Get to it.
get to the ending. Yes.
But you knew if you read the end,
Then-
it wouldn't make any sense.
No, this is true. There's a great deal of suspense in this novel, which I found entertaining to myself. And for me, the killing, as you mentioned, there's just evil person after evil person in this, and everyone's backstabbing and, you know, backbiting, and it was for me an over the top, almost not fantasy, that's not the right word, but there's something escapist about this kind of novel, books and murder.
But
you know, I mean, that's sort of a humorous concept.
I think, you
It falls
know,
under, there were some bad coworkers there.
but don't you think that when somebody writes a book, there's somebody out there that you know, wants to get that book away from them and wants the rights to that book to publish it? I think there would be a lot of backstabbing or whatever in that type of business,
Oh, yes, yes.
because everybody would want to get that book and make it theirs and make a profit from it.
You're absolutely right. In fact, before I became a librarian and after I got out of graduate school for library science, I worked for Gale Research. And I spent a good portion of the year working in research for Gale and their publications. And I ended up in corporate intelligence, which was an exciting field to be in at that time. It was the beginning of the internet and access to, you know, a huge amount of information. And so for me, I got a chance to do corporate, quote unquote, spying and espionage on our competitors to find out, like you say, Dorothy, you know, what is coming on the horizon in terms of publications? How can we beat out the competition, do
Right,
better
right,
than the
right,
competition? So in a ways, this fed my soul, my
Was it-
little
Was
corporate.
it pretty legal what you were doing?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I wasn't doing
I think
anything.
I'd like that
I mean,
job.
at first I thought, oh, this will be, you know, the James Bond opportunity. They'll send me to Paris, and before you know it, I'll, you know, be on a yacht. But no, nothing like that at all. But it was fascinating.
That'd be
One of the things in the book, the CIA comes across as like really evil. There must be all of the TV shows, the NCIS. It's always the CIA guy that has caused all the bad stuff. Like, were they really the bad guys? Because they sure sound bad in here.
They do.
And
Yes.
Well,
like,
I
do you
think
know something we don't know, or did he just pick that
Well,
up from all the TV shows? That
Yeah,
yeah,
look
make-
at politics nowadays. I mean,
right.
It is what it is.
I think that there's a general presumption that the CIA does illegal things to get information.
Right.
You know, whereas the FBI seems to be a little cleaner about
That's
the
how
whole
they're
thing, and they
always
follow the
portrayed
rules
in the books and-
of the tapes. You know, they do everything legal. So I
It's like, no wonder they don't tell anybody they're CIA. Everybody goes, "Ooh, no, we don't, you're bad guys."
Yeah, if they kill you, they have to shoot you. I mean, if you know the information, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but
I wanted to read the introductory portion that the author gives you at the beginning of the book. It says, "There is no single person in the world who can verify the entirety of what's in these pages, but there is one person who can come close, the subject himself, Charlie Wolfe. There are other people who could, if properly motivated, attest to the individual realities, one incident at a time, in which they had direct first-hand knowledge. Perhaps this book will be that motivation to those witnesses, an impetus to reveal their truths, to verify this story. But the author isn't one of those possible witnesses, because if what you are reading is a finished book, printed and bound and distributed into the world, I am most certainly dead." So that's how the author of the book, Chris Pavoni, lays out the beginning chapter and takes you on this wild ride of a story. I thought we would address our questions. Did you find this book impossible to put down? Obviously, some of you would have liked to put it down and started another book, but that's fine. What are the characteristics of a good thriller? What do you feel are the characteristics of a good thriller?
well, you can't guess the ending.
That's right. Exactly.
I like the surprises. There were two really good twists in here that when you read them, it's like, I didn't see that coming.
Exactly. I
I
thought he
did. I guess
had-
that's what it is. I didn't see that coming, and so that makes it a good mystery or good thriller.
Well, the main part of the story is you're guessing who actually was driving the car the night of the accident, and who wrote the book. It got to the point where I was guessing who wrote the book.
That's right. Yeah, they're trying to get you to figure that out.
Right,
There's a
yeah, and
story
I think
within
most
a story.
mysteries are like that. I mean, there's a lot of characters, and there's several enough hints that you're wondering, okay, who actually did it?
Mm-hmm. That's right. I think the author did a good job of,
Yeah.
of concealing that
Right,
until
right.
the very end.
And I have to admit, there have been some books that have been very easy to guess
Mm-hmm.
guess
yeah.
at.
When
But
they
it's
had the
not.
one big reveal about who was driving, I actually went back and found the spot and the way it was written, so you really couldn't tell that
Yeah,
the
I
person
ended
was
up
hit
going
going
back.
forward,
Yeah.
because when it said her legs, it was like it made it sound like the person had backed over her. So
I
it was like,
know.
how was that written that I'm surprised by that sentence?
Mm-hmm.
And you go back and find it, it's like, because he set me up to be surprised. That's why. So it was good writing.
It was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. I wanted to review some of the characters before we got too far into our discussion. I thought there was Isabel Reed. She seemed to be the first character that we really get to know.
Right.
And then we have Hayden Gray, who is a CIA operative, kind of a James Bondian type character, very good looking, very athletic.
Yes, Harrison Ford, right
Yeah,
there.
you can already
Yeah,
give them.
I did.
Yes,
I did. Yeah.
yes, exactly. Yeah, and let me think. Who else did we have? We had David Miller. He was Charlie Wolfe's best friend. Oh, I should have said Charlie
Oh,
Wolfe
she's
first.
giving away the plot.
Charlie Wolfe was the publisher of Worldwide Media, I think it was called. It was kind of like CNN. You know, if you want to see a huge media conglomerate, this was what I think he represented. And of course, we said David Miller, and then there's some minor characters, a lot of thugs, CIA thugs, and secret people, and so there was a lot of really interesting different types of characters. Oh, there was an English woman too. She was an English publisher. Her name was Glendon Browning, Camilla Glendon Browning, and I thought she was one of the most colorful characters. I thought she was interesting. And in fact, this segues right into the next question. In the book, Camilla talks about the internet and the effect on the world of books. She thinks first the web devoured book clubs, then magazines, and now its maw is agape, ravenous, ready to swallow the whole bloody publishing business. Discuss your experience with books and the internet. How has the internet changed you personally and society in general? It's a really good question, and I think they talk about this a lot in the book.
I think those of us that read, this doesn't apply. We still are
still
all have
like
our
our
books,
books. We
and
like
we
our
still
books.
want to know.
Right.
So
Yes.
people who sign up for book clubs don't believe that books are going out of.
Right, definitely.
I mean, if you were going to look at the numbers and the publishing and that, but those of us that want a book and turn the pages and have that feel, we'll go to our graves wanting a book.
I don't see many people using e-readers anymore.
Well,
They're either playing with their cell phones or you got a book in your hand.
Well, they say not to use an e-reader at night before you go to bed if you have insomnia because of the way the light
It's like,
reflects.
The electronics will kill you.
well, there's
I
that
just,
question,
I just
how
had
harmful can they be?
house guests, including my 18-year-old niece, who is just finished her first year of college, and she is reading. She's spending her summer with good books, and so it's not just seniors. There are young people who still want a book, and
My granddaughter's a bookworm, just like I
Yes,
was
yes,
at that age,
yes.
13. I always had my head in a book. And you see, the children that come in here, they carry out books,
yeah.
not electronics.
That's true.
So I don't think, not in my lifetime, none of our lifetimes, that books will be not there.
I agree with you, Dorothy. I think for me, books have been enhanced by electronic access. Like I download all my books to my phone now. I do have a Kindle Fire at home, but I have a Kindle app on my telephone, and I take it with me everywhere. I read on airplanes, I read in cars, I read in buses and trains. And the thing that's really enhanced the whole experience for me is to have access to an ebook and an audiobook simultaneously, so I can read it and listen to it anywhere I am, which is really great. And then of course I take this home with me, and when I my eyes get tired, I switch over. I do the dance. I read here, listen here, and then I pick this up. As you can tell, I mark stuff that I've read. Which is, you can mark stuff that you read in here as well.
So like blind people can now get just about every audiobook?
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
It's quite
yeah.
amazing. In
Wow.
fact, Talking Books is available as
They
well.
have for a long
through
time.
Rochester Hills
Even-
Public Library and through us.
Even with being able to do all that, you still love picking up a
Yeah,
book
yeah.
and
I still love picking up, yes.
that first page of a new book, a new story. Oh boy,
Yeah,
a
the
new story.
smell of
Yeah.
the book, everything about a book. But the other thing that I really like about internet and how it's enhanced my reading is that I belong to groups like Goodreads. And I can go on, it's a social media website for book readers and book lovers, and they review the books. We rate our books, we talk to other readers, I get updates daily about the people that I associate online as well. So that's really helped it's inspired me to read other books that I would have never read by people I've never met. So it's kind of a fun way to interact and connect socially online. So I see it as enhancing and transforming reading. And I know that a lot of students today in schools don't get books. They get them electronically now, straight from the publisher through the college. So
Yeah, I'm not into all that, so
yeah. So
there's
so
a
even
world out there I know nothing about.
We're a generation
Yeah, that-
removed.
I agree.
the world of textbooks in universities has really changed over the electronic format. So we are fully on board and getting ready for that new generation here at the library.
And how libraries have kept up with this progress.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just amazing that it's all available to us. You know, I'm overwhelmed with what libraries are doing. Libraries, and we're here, are a social connection to the community, and they bring so much now more than they ever did. You know, a library is where you go and you be quiet
Oh, yeah.
And you check
yeah.
out a book and all the rules about the library and intimidating. Now it's the opposite. Come and paint, come learn your Legos. It is a community and it's an outreach. And so in the sense of the isolation that the internet has given us,
Right. Definitely.
which is kind of fearful when you consider kids gaming 24/7 and addicted to gaming or addicted to whatever it is on the internet, then this brings the mix, to life that's so necessary. And to read a book in isolation and to never talk about it with anyone is a little is hard. But to have that opportunity is pretty special. And I think book clubs are becoming even more prevalent because people are looking for that connection. You hear of game night among the neighbors. They have game night here. I don't participate, but I should, but because I love games. So I think the internet has totally changed our society. It's no different than the Industrial Revolution when I was very young, or my parents' age. And we're now the internet revolution, and we're trying to stay up and to stay, focused on it. But it's, I'm really good at travel on the internet, but I haven't got as good as you are as far as books. But I'm going to try. I think it's important. So I think it's brought more to our lives, but it's disrupted every single business. You name it. If you're in banking, Bitcoin. If you're in real estate, Zillow. You go all the way down the level of internet. It's totally changed the style of our lives. And same, with books. But are we still going to be humans? Are we still going to have human needs? So that's where I think the internet and books are fulfilling a purpose.
No, I think, Rita, you bring some really important points up about privacy and also being by yourself, because you can only do this you can only read when you're by yourself, but when you have a phone or a device out, you're being barraged by dings and whistles and sounds to constantly interact, and so this in a way takes away your privacy and takes away your aloneness or your being by yourself. So I think you raise a really interesting issue about how it's changing, how the web changes our life on a daily basis.
So, and you're saying, which I never realized, that when I see people looking down at their cell phones, they're not playing games and they're not on Facebook. They're reading a book.
They could be.
Or they're watching a movie.
That's right.
That's true.
That's a very good point.
Or they're doing business.
I guess I did not
Or
realize
fantasy
it.
football.
I'm not into cell phones like that.
No, I'm
I
not
don't
either.
either. I'm
No,
not either.
Not into that.
I have to say, are you reading a book?
Let's see, where were we at?
Number 3?
Yes, number 3. The accident has an opening quote, and I love this quote. Is it possible to succeed without any act of betrayal? What are your thoughts or answers on this question in relation to the book or your own philosophy or experience? I'll just repeat it. It's a quote by Jean Renoir. Is it possible to succeed without any act of betrayal?
What does that really mean? Succeed in betrayal. I mean, everyone's human, and human things happen, and things will happen to you that you're innocent of, and vice versa that you're not so innocent of. I don't quite understand the whole quote.
I do feel like it refers to some of the behavior that you see in the novel.
Okay.
There's a lot of, like, for example, Jeffrey Fielding, who is in a long time relationship with the main character, Isabel Reed. He's actively betraying her throughout the story, behind her back, and you do get a sense that he's still courting her and still trying to get her to fall in love with him throughout the course of this book, but he's got this terrible secret too, so he's betraying her actively, because he has created a contract with Hayden Gray, who's the main operative of the story. But to me, this quote was really about, how do you trust yourself and do you trust other people? Like, for example, if you had two friends who who did not like each other. When you go out to see one, is the other friend jealous? You know, do you feel comfortable being with both those people at the same time, or do you have to split your allegiance? Do you feel like you have an allegiance, and are you betraying one friend to be friends with the other? Is there a sense of betrayal ever between in your relationships? It could be on different levels, I think. But I really do feel it really speaks to the various forms of betrayal you see in this story, and the kinds of behaviors you see that people are hurting each other, and as it's unveiled at the end of the story. I think David, the main author's story, it's the worst kind of betrayal that anybody could have.
Is it possible to succeed, okay, number one, without any act of betrayal? Or is it possible to succeed with any act of betrayal? I mean, the with or without is, I think, was the word is
That's
what's
a very good
throwing
question.
me.
Yeah, I see what
It's
you're saying.
throwing me.
I think it is.
I think it is too. I think, but all these people feel like they have to betray each other in a way or in some way or another.
But maybe that's that business. I mean,
Yes.
that's there again.
Right,
Yeah,
that's right.
And that was the whole gist of the story.
That's right. That is the gist of the
Yeah.
story.
Perhaps if you've already decided to do something wrong, then it's like run over someone.
Yeah.
Perhaps then it's easier to betray and lie because
That was the
you're,
first
you're
mistake.
already you're already bad.
Right. That was a bad mistake. So
Yes.
you're going to
Yes.
continue on making those mistakes.
Yes, the actual running over was a mistake.
Yeah.
But the response to it, and then for years,
I
to
know, it's like a grand
have
jury.
to do things to cover up
Yep.
that you made a mistake. And,
You almost want to call in the
you
grand.
know, like
the
your
grand-
mother used to say, tell the truth.
That's
Tell
right.
the truth, because
Yeah, you want to call in the grand jury.
and
unlevel.
and in this story, all
find
the
the
bad
different
things that happened and all the bad things that happened to lots of people were all because someone
Right.
panicked when they made a mistake.
That's right.
They panicked
That was the
and
beginning.
didn't tell the truth. And then a lot of people had to suffer, and especially on the one day in this book.
That's right.
Dozens of people had to pay the ultimate price to cover up even more mistakes. Except then they're not mistakes. They're not mistakes if you're having someone murdered.
No,
That's a betrayal.
that's right. Yes, and I think
Okay.
it's at the bottom of this is an evil that just didn't stop. There was just a deep evil that couldn't be covered up anymore, and just kept growing and growing.
I can't. The main woman, what is it?
Isabel.
Isabel.
I can't. Did she actually betray someone? I don't think so.
I don't think she did, and
I don't think she actually.
I think you're right. She didn't.
I don't think so either.
No.
And some of the people, like the other women in the office, they were practicing poor workmanship or by cheating and copying and things. But I was like, I can't come up that she actually betrayed someone.
I mean, the people in the office didn't know if this was a really exciting or real,
Telling other people things.
no,
that
they just did it as almost habit.
That's right.
Bad
This
work.
is what they do.
Yeah, that's what
Well-
they do.
Why did they copy that book? I mean, they didn't read it. They just looked down at it and they saw, oh, the accident. I'm going to copy this. Did the book ever say,
There were no prohibition about copying, and never.
right,
There
I
was
mean,
never
they just decided, oh, I'm going to copy this book. I mean, what made them decide that they had to do that?
It's a good question. I think it was a form of greed, and they thought they could use it for their own benefit. That was my thought on
But it could
why
have
they
been,
were doing
it could have been
that.
any book
Yeah,
they
when you-
saw later on, but everybody was copying that one book.
Right.
Yes.
There were thousands and thousands of manuscripts. You know,
Right,
that's
right.
that's exactly how I thought. Why did they copy that book?
Right. Well, maybe it's because the
And
way
why
it
did
came
they
in.
stick it in the copier, not a flash drive? Not
Yeah, something had to start the
You
chain
know.
of reaction.
exactly. You had to get the book going.
That got lost on me.
Well, I think you bring up Isabel.
I had to go back and find, like I said, when it's happened, it's like, wait, where's the setup on this? And go back and find it.
No, it makes you really think about what's actually going on in the story, and it asks you in the next question, discuss the characters, which I think you're bringing up that. Did you develop attachment to anyone in particular? Talk about a character or characters you strongly liked or disliked. And I think there's there's some to like and most to dislike, but what did you think about the characters particularly?
I don't like the author. I don't like David Miller.
David Miller.
It turns out that, to me, that he's the evil one. And the worst part is that they were going to kill the woman if it turned out that she could identify him.
That's right.
But
But she didn't find that out till she had read the book.
That's
But
right.
still, it's like, oh, wait, he was taking me out to dinner and he had a gun ready to...
Take me out.
now,
That's right.
I'm getting mixed up. Wasn't Isabel the actual person in that bar
Yes,
that
was her.
saw the two guys going out with the
but she
victim?
couldn't
right.
identify them.
And I didn't find that was not in there until the end of the book.
I know, it was at the very end.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
So
It was like this little tiny paragraph that she went back and said, towards the end, little tiny, that she looked at a bunch of,
it
the
was-
yearbooks.
It was there all the
That's
time,
right.
but I didn't identify it.
It, but that they all looked, looking at the yearbook, they all looked alike. They all looked like college boys.
Right.
And but she really couldn't identify them across the room.
Did she have to go to a police
That's-
questioning?
I said,
as well?
because it was like, all right, where was that information? And so flip through and then find it. And it was this little tiny, that she sacked about being at the police station and no, she wasn't able to help. And they were like, okay, well, thank you.
Well, I guess Isabel would be my favorite character then.
I totally agree. Isabel
Yeah,
was mine
Isabel.
as well. Yeah, she had lost her son Tommy, and that's kind of a mystery too. The author kind of strings that whole story out for a long time, and you wonder what her pain is and how he died, and I felt so much for her because here she is living by herself, divorced, in an apartment all by herself, and she's just totally dedicated to her job. And I mean, a lot of women who either their children have grown up or they never had kids or never got married, you can totally identify with her sadness and her aloneness. I really felt she was a really incredibly sympathetic character.
I think the author did a good job
Another thing that
with all the characters and all of the little twists that happened. It makes me think more about what I did read. Because what we're talking about, it's all coming back now. And there's a lot of stuff I missed.
That's
but
okay.
about that, you knew that you could tell that her child had died,
Yes.
but you didn't know if it was a baby or a bigger child. And the same thing, that the final punchline about what happened was also just a little tiny bit that
Right.
but
They
Heart.
the author
that
didn't
an
get-
infection and
Yeah, the author didn't really get into anything about the child
yeah, I mean,
dying or how old,
you
that
almost
was
thought it was
an
going to turn into
afterthought.
the accident, and was that
Yeah.
is it a take on that? But that probably would have been too obvious if they had the child die in an accident also. But that it was almost unavoidable, that it not something that parents did wrong except come home from work.
Right, it was an accident. When you think about it, it was an
you're right.
accident that happened. I mean, she just didn't take him to the doctor
Yeah.
soon enough. If she had just gone there a little sooner, perhaps
Yes.
he would have survived. But the word accident perfectly describes
You're right. What,
exactly what happened with
they're
her
thinking
and how
the baby
she.
was all right and went to bed and not. So
Yeah, it could happen to anybody. That was what I thought was so poignant. It was.
Right.
you're
was-
right. It was a good thriller. There was
Yep.
lots of twists.
There was
Yeah,
lot-
there were.
If you want a twist, there were lots of twists.
And I have to admit, I read a lot of books, and a book club is good for going over everything that I missed.
I know.
And it's
I
making me
agree.
think.
Yeah. How about Charlie Wolf? He was. I think I hated him up until the very end of the
Yeah.
story. I hated that man, and he had everything going for him from the moment he was born. And his father, Preston, took care of the accident, paid off David for 20 years to keep his mouth shut, and he thought he had committed the crime for 20 years. So, and he did a lot of things that were underhanded too.
Yeah.
So, he was not a good person.
But he had to live with the belief that he murdered someone when he didn't.
Right. That's exactly right. What kind of life that must have been. it's
He was an
So
accessory.
to me,
He was an accessory. They both covered it up in their own way.
he was pretty bold though with the idea that he thought he committed the accident.
Mm-hmm.
So he lived a very, I would say, bold, fearless
Yes.
life.
That's right.
You know, I mean, I was looking for some contrition in there.
Right. He was never. There was no remorse whatsoever in this character.
He was big man on campus all the way through the novel.
That's right.
this book makes you look at everybody at the table like, what secret do you have that you're not?
Oh, I think we all have secrets.
I think you're right. I
Yeah.
think that you just scratched the surface,
Small,
and
big.
that's how we identify with these people. I do. You know, there's lots of skeletons in everyone's closet.
Nobody's perfect.
Well, that's how you grow up.
That's right. Yes. What do you mean by that?
Life experiences.
Yeah,
you
we're
know.
always growing. I mean,
That's
it
true.
never stops.
And we're not always innocent in our experiences, you know.
That's
I mean,
true.
or else you wouldn't understand both sides of your character. You know, they always talk about bringing both sides, the good and the bad, together, and that makes a whole more mature person. So, you know, like the Amish, they let go of their young children to go off and raise hell, so that, you know, they do
Get it
know.
out of their system.
But yeah, get it out of their system. So, I think that if you just don't get out of your system at the right time, it comes at the wrong time of your life, then you're in trouble.
There's one character I did not like. I didn't like there's two. I did not like the lawyer, and I did not like Jeffrey Fielding. Jeffrey Fielding seemed to be, well, we obviously know he had a secret, and he had a long time love for Isabel, but he was kind of this whiny baby all the way through the story. To me, he felt that people owed him something, and I think he was whining about, you know, he was making $80,000 a year and it wasn't enough, and he lived in this tiny little hovel in Chinatown. Well, it was called Nolita, which is an acronym for North Little Italy. And there were lots of really interesting acronyms for the places in New York, like NoHo and Soho and Tribeca. And in fact, it felt like New York was a character into its very own. I felt that, for me, that was exciting. But, you know, I'm an ex-New Yorker. I lived there briefly. And so I thought the way it was staged in New York, it felt real. It felt like you were there amongst people
yeah.
in the coffee shops in Greenwich Village, walking down, you know, Chinatown. That was kind of, for me, that was exciting. I thought that
Oh yeah, it's very familiar to you. Old home week.
it was old home week. Yes, I really thought so. In fact, I knew somebody who lived in a cheap walk-up in Chinatown that's now a trendy, you know, upscale neighborhood. So
Is anything cheap in New York? It
there's
doesn't matter
nothing
what.
cheap. There's nothing. You have to move to Brooklyn now to get cheap, and cheap means $1,500 a month. And you know, New York is like $3,000 a month or $6,000
For a closet.
For a closet, exactly, the size of this table. So you know, just the kind of look inside their lives was kind of, for me, you know, it was a vicarious thrill, I guess you might say.
Sure.
That was fascinating.
I wonder why he made him the whiny person.
You know, I think there's always
A whiny person.
there's always a whiny person.
Like, if you don't like Chinatown, get over it. You know, do something. Go to Brooklyn.
Well, yeah, I remember when I worked in an office in New York, and I worked in a corporation, was a small nanny business, and they were pairing nannies, au pairs, with families, and these au pairs came from Europe, and next door there was an office, a law office, and I could hear yelling and screaming all day in that office next door. People were carrying on, and every day I would leave and see the poor secretary in tears. And so, you know, there was that drama going on constantly, and you feel like there's that kind of drama going on in this
What kind of
book.
law did they do?
I don't know, but they changed over their staff on a regular basis.
Probably got a lot of good stories.
So there were a lot of interesting little stories, side stories within this book. There were lots of stories within stories. I think I'm going to go skip to number 7. Did you like the structure of this book? does the author use narrative devices like flashbacks or multiple voices in telling the story? How did this affect your reading of the story and your appreciation of the book? Do you think that the author did a very good job of doing that? I know that I saw him tell the story from different people's points of view.
It covered so many years it needed to do that so that you could understand the things that had happened.
But it all happened in one day.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yes.
And I have to admit, this was one of the books, and I have read a lot of books like that. I get into the book, and I'm constantly going towards the front to check on who is this and how did this happen. And normally I don't care for a book like that. It just doesn't help me keep on track of what's going on.
You don't get lost in it as quickly.
It's
You know, so that's how I see a good mystery, almost as you get lost in it. Whereas this one, you're checking. Okay, who was that?
right.
What did
exact-
they
yeah,
do?
yeah. I tend to not like books with a lot of characters to keep track of. Maybe it's just as I get older, it just gets harder.
Well, the book, I think, the whole contrived story of this of the accident and who was blamed for it. I think he almost needed that device of multiple voices to keep you in suspense. You know.
Well, there were a lot of characters. I mean, there were a
Right.
lot of people involved in that story.
But don't you think an editor would have said, okay, take these two out, you know, or take, you know, or advised them differently? But
I think that was one of the criticisms of the book, that there were just too many people in this novel.
Well, it's not as bad as some books I've read.
This is an example to me of why book club is so valuable. If you were reading it on your own and there was a twist, you'd say, oh, okay, a twist. When you're reading it for book club and you're going to discuss it, it's like, wait, why am I
It's a big
surprised?
difference. Yeah,
And
right,
you go
right.
back and, oh, okay.
You'll mention something that I don't remember.
Yes. And so it's the value of the book club so that you pay attention. And then when you're reading it, you think, I wonder what the others thought of that. So that you know, it's like, I thought that was strange. Did anybody else think that was strange?
And I actually thought everybody liked the book. And here you two didn't like it.
Well, there was times in the beginning where I was infuriated by the story of the cover-up, and I felt that I'd heard it before.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You'd heard it 100 times.
right,
You know,
right.
someone had done something bad in his youth, and oh my goodness, this is just kind of trite, and you know, what
Same
is he
old
going to
story,
do? Same old story. That's what
yeah.
I thought at first,
Yeah.
but then you know, they took the story to a different level, and I found myself just wanting to keep turning the pages, just like the people in the book kept wanting to turn the pages. And so I'm sorry about that. I better turn this off. Yeah, so yeah, I sort of picked up on the excitement of the characters in the story themselves. You know, these are readers getting excited about books, and I was getting, and here I was on an airplane going to California to see my daughter, and I was, you know, so excited about, you know, there I was stopping in the airport, and I was kept reading, and I thought, can I finish this by the time I get there?
Did you actually have the book with you?
I did. I actually had both I had my ebook and I had both copies. So,
you're a true librarian.
Really.
and
People are getting excited about
I would
reading
be afraid I'd
books.
I
lose
know it was almost, it fed me that their excitement in their books about reading the accident got me excited about reading the book.
Did you have the knowledge, as much knowledge about the publishing industry? Or did you learn something about the publishing industry in this book?
I got some, you know, I know there's really the reality of the publishing industry are the people that do all the day-to-day research. It's quite a boring job in many cases. And when he talked about how he had to rewrite it 3 times, the author had to rewrite that novel 3 times from different points of view, omniscient, first person, third person, you know.
Really?
Yeah, it's so tedious, and when he comes to the end, he goes, oh, there's a few errors in this. Will anybody notice? And I thought that was
Yeah.
a really good point.
And
You
the-
know how difficult it is to actually get something accomplished, get it done. And so, yeah, I found I didn't know that much about the publishing industry just from my small point of view. You know, I wasn't an editor. I was one of the one of the people in one of the cogs, you know, one of the worker bees
Yeah,
at the publishing industry. So, but I know that it was a high pressure. We had deadlines. Things had to get done. There were lots of big contracts, and
I
they
would
made a
love
lot of money.
to
Well, sure.
learn about what you did because you're spying
They
corporately
have
on
to
what
leave.
other people are doing.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know.
yeah. I didn't do it a long time, but I did it enough to get
I mean,
a taste of it.
Were you like looking for newer cookbooks, or what division were you in?
Well, we did reference books, so that was fascinating.
boring.
Yes, I know it was. Yes.
I'm gonna have to leave.
Oh,
I
Denise.
have to go.
Okay, well, let me
But-
give you your book for next,
Yes,
and this is a
please.
good segue
Oh, good.
to introduce the book for next month.
Okay. I have to
Yeah.
see you outside. I haven't seen you for 2 weeks out there.
It was raining.
I know.
It's been nasty weather.
Thank you.
It is a man called Uva,
Oh.
and it's going to be quite a different read, everyone. This is a
Kitty on the
complete.
cover. I'm going to like this
You're
book.
going to like this book.
Large
You're going to
print.
like this book.
Good. Are they all large
This,
print?
this
There's a kitty.
The author
Yeah,
is
yeah.
from Sweden. This is a translation. It was made into a movie and won Best Foreign Film of 2016. So it's a highly acclaimed novel. It's a novel with a lot of heart. It starts out with the character Uva. That's how you pronounce it in Swedish, I believe it is. And he is a very distrusting, bitter,
Curmudgeon.
sour man.
Curmudgeon.
That
Says right there on the back of the book.
describes him perfectly, and he hates everybody and everything in the world.
My book, my kind of book.
But you know, there's he meets a family who moves in next door, and he has to get used to this idea of having foreigners. Thanks, Denise.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for coming. I look forward to seeing you next week.
Okay,
Next month, I mean.
Yeah, next month I'll
Next
be
month.
here.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're
Bye.
welcome. Yeah, so I think you're going to really like this book a lot. It has a lot of soul, a lot of heart. There's no murder.
Well, Ufa is one letter short of love.
You're right.
Does
yes.
he find that in the end?
I think you're gonna love Uva, and Uva seeks out love and gets his life back together, finds love, and finds what it is to change. He's 59 years old, he's retired, and he's lost his wife, so he has to see if there's really anything left living for. And I think that's what this book that journey is. That
I
journey
have a
you take.
large print book. Is anything missing out of the large print books?
Oh,
that's
not at
in
all.
the other book? Okay.
No, it's just a little bit larger.
No, that's easy
yeah.
for me to see.
Yes, I agree. Yes, and
It mentions cats on the back too, and since I'm a crazy cat lady, I already know I'm going to like this one.
I think you will. I
They're
think,
probably not murdering people in this one, though.
no, not at all. Almost every copy in the entire system is checked out. We had a hard time getting
Really?
copies of this book. And
It's
this
been
book-
around a while. I remember hearing about that.
Yes,
title.
absolutely. This book has been around for quite some time. It's been turned into
If you
a
come to,
movie.
if you come to book club,
If you go on
get a
Netflix,
a
if you
present
can get
every
it on
month.
in independent, where would it be under? I wonder what kind of what kind of movie.
Oh gosh, foreign films.
Foreign
Foreign
films.
films. Yes, best movie of 2016. But I wanted, just before we close out, I wanted to ask you what you thought about the ending in The Accident. I thought about that a long time, and I was a little disappointed, but I thought, what did you think? What did you think of the ending of The Accident?
the ending.
Yes.
First, I liked it that there was a receipt that more copies had been made.
Yes.
I thought that was a nice little twist. In other words, going back to about books and things, paper copies don't disappear either.
That's right.
They're there.
Yes.
And then, if she read in the book that they were going to kill her if she could recognize them, and she was still willing to work with them,
That's right.
that
Yeah.
she said, when this blows over, we'll work on it.
I was wondering what you thought of that.
And she doesn't know yet that he was actually driving the car.
I know. I felt that.
But if she was willing to overlook that he was going to shoot her,
Oh my goodness. Revive the ending for me.
Okay. Well, David Wolf's best friend gets in a car and he's being pursued. He's trying to leave he's trying to leave, and he has an accident, right? And I thought he was going to go over the side of a cliff. And in fact, he doesn't. He slams into the side of a mountain, or he goes off into the ditch. And I thought he was, to me personally, I thought he was going to just jump down the side of the hill and die.
The ending wasn't really a conclusion.
Right, exactly. That's
You know what?
I hate
It
endings like
left
that.
it open for the next. It left
The
it
next
open
novel,
for the next book.
yeah, yeah.
I think
The
you're
part
right.
of the
The
series,
sequel.
yeah.
That's true. Yeah, and I see the movie rights kind of rolling and
Have you read the first book?
No, I didn't.
I'm wondering if it's the same characters.
There are some
There's some
two
similar
of the same
characters that-
Well, that title, The Expats, isn't there a movie?
I believe it was made into a movie. Yes, there is. Yeah, there is
Something
a movie.
with that
Or it's
type
in,
of
it's
title.
actually in development. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's in development. That's correct.
Because The Expats, for some reason, it sticks in my mind.
And it did win Best Edgar Award about 2 years ago. Best Edgar Award for Best New Author.
Is it also a mystery?
Yes, it's the same kind of mystery thriller. Edgars are generally mysteries, and he won,
Okay.
yeah, for best new author. So, a lot of his readers felt a little let down with this novel.
With this one?
Yeah.
Maybe first book would be interesting to read.
It very well could be. I think you might enjoy it. So I really want to thank you for all of you being here today.
Oh.
I think this was really a terrific discussion of this novel.
It definitely makes me think more about what did I read. You know, because I tend to read fast and I don't always digest everything.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to make notes.
So I
because-
tried that.
You tried that.
People pick
well-
up something I missed, so that's what's good.
Different things jump out at
Yeah,
different people,
right,
and then
right.
if we're sharing, it's like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm sitting here, I don't remember that part.
But which is
somebody
fine,
does.
You know, that's
Well,
right.
not remembering the ending almost shows you that the ending wasn't that.
It wasn't,
It wasn't a typical novel and mystery
It wasn't
novel
the
where
end.
the ending is, it really jumps out at you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this one kind of
and I think more and more authors.
Fizzles.
fizzles. Yeah.
Don't you think that more and more authors are ending books like that, ending stories like that? Maybe there's more of them doing sequels.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably easier.
Well, yeah. I think that the main character,
run
David,
out
he's
of
really the main
ideas.
character. He has a lot of guilt at the end of the story, and I think he's thinking about dying or killing himself, and I think that he's thought about dying all the way through the novel. That he faked his death. He was faking his
Right,
death.
right.
He faked his appearance. He got what is it called, plastic surgery, and he had his fingerprints altered. So he's really transformed himself so he could disappear. And, he wore clothing that made him look like he was dying from cancer. He told everybody he had cancer.
So we don't really know. Maybe he did have cancer.
I don't think he did he?
I don't think he did,
I don't think
but
he had cancer.
it was never actually said that he didn't.
No, that's right. No,
Kept us guessing.
that's right. It did keep you guessing.
Yeah.
This is so true.
Sometimes after we've had our discussion, I almost want to read
Read
the
the
book
book
again.
And me too.
Because it's
I
like,
agree.
wait, Dorothy said that part, and Marita said that part. I didn't see that. It was, you almost want to
Yeah,
go through it
yeah.
again
I
with
agree.
with new knowledge.
Mary
with
Ellen,
new knowledge.
that's right.
Well,
that's
I
true.
read it right after we leave here. I read it within the week.
And-
And then 3 weeks later, I should probably almost reread it, or at least flip through it real quick. So,
I have found that by reading it too early, I forget too much. So I have been reading it, say, the week before book club,
Yes.
but I still forget things.
Yeah. Well, this has had so
And
much
I was
going
in
on.
kind of a hurry. I think I finished it Tuesday night,
Wow.
but my mind just doesn't hold everything anymore.
join the club.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so much fun,
Yeah.
I think.
There's a really, really good article in the Reader's Digest this month about, and it's scientifically, they're talking about almost the level of reading that's out there in books and how it's dropped. That how many large words or I don't know, different things. But I look at that and I think, well, maybe stories are just more approachable. Maybe it's okay
Well,
to
authors are
read just from
changing. The authors are changing too.
right, but it's more approachable. It's more entertainment. do we have to always be educated when we read a
Oh,
book?
yes,
Oh.
yeah, I read for entertainment.
Exactly. Or escapism.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right. This is true.
no.
That's right. Yeah, just entertainment is sometimes the goal, entertainment and escapism.
If there's nothing on TV you want to watch, then you read a book.
That's right. And look forward to the next book club, which
Yes.
I
Oh, yeah, I do.
really
I
am.
do.
Yes. Yes.
Do
Well,
we-
thank
are
you
these-
so much
Cut.
for being here today. And we look forward to our next book talk, the first Friday book club in September, when we review A Man Called Uva. Thank you so much for being here today, everyone.